والسلام على رسول الله رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. And so the issue of differences of opinions is not just one of our modern times, where we see many divisions within the Ummah, unfortunately. But it's been there for a while, and it's been intentionally put there that way. But in order for us to better understand this topic, and to better look at it, we need to look at how the earlier Muslims, how they looked at it as well. Because, our history, it's not just about the stories of a few generals or emperors, or what life was back then. It provides us with lessons from both its successes and failures, and from its good and bad parts as well. In the Quran and our Sunnah, we have many stories from history to remind us of where we came from, and to also take lessons from them to implement into our own lives. And so to look at the issue of differences of opinions, I want to look back at our history. Because the Muslims back then, they looked at history as well, and they applied it. So I think that we should also look at our own past and see how we can apply it. And so the incident I want to emphasize today is one that happened during the Khilaf of Harun al-Rashid, where he was basically Amir al-Muslimin, and served both a religious and secular role in the Ummah. The story happened when he went to Hajj with his teacher Qadi Abu Yusuf, who was one of the leading scholars of the Hanafi fiqh at the time. And so before Dhuhr prayer, he wanted to get cupping done. But in the Hanafi madhab, if you get cut or if you bleed, your wudu goes away. And he was right at the front of the Kaaba. And so to go to a place of wudu, Harun al-Rashid would have had to go through 1,000 rows of people. And he wouldn't just be able to simply go through them. People would say salam to him, people would want to talk to him, because he's a very dignified figure. And so by the time he did back to the front of the Kaaba to lead salah, it would have been Asr time by then. But then he saw Imam Malik in the crowd. And in the Maliki madhab, when you bleed, that doesn't break your wudu. And so he asked him if it was okay for him to lead salah, and Imam Malik said, yes, of course you're allowed to do it. And so he led salah in front of all the Muslimin at the Kaaba. But then many of the students of Qadi Abu Yusuf, they came to the Shaykh after prayer and asked him, why did you let him lead the prayer? They came to him very angrily. But then the Qadi said, that anyone who doubts that prayer is from the Khawarij, meaning the extremists. And the reason the Qadi let this happen was because he understood no matter what differences Muslims have, we all have the same roots, and we all have the same fundamentals of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. And so, two people can disagree. They can have different understandings and convincing arguments. But ultimately, we all have the same fundamentals. And we still make dua for each other because our principles and our roots are still the same. And so Harun al-Rashid decided to follow the Maliki opinion in this. And Qadi Abu Yusuf didn't make his followers repeat the prayer, but instead gave the Khalifa the benefit of the doubt. And so this is how early Muslims understood this topic. But unfortunately, many Muslims today don't understand it like this. Many of us literally kick others out of Islam for something as trivial as where we put our hands during prayer. Unfortunately, that's true. And so, if we constantly keep up this discord, it's going to come back to us in the hereafter, that's for sure. But the ones who are going to be impacted in this dunya are the next generation, because they're going to be confused. They're going to come into doubt about a deen which principles have already been set. And so I'd like to say this ayah to emphasize how we need to deal with this. فَلِذَلِكَ فَدْعُوا وَاسْتَقِيمُوا كَمَا أُمِرْتُ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا أَهْوَاءَهُمْ وَقُلْ آمَنْتُ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ كِتَابٍ وَأُمِرْتُ لِأَعْدِلَ بَيْنَكُمْ اللَّهُ رَبُّنَا وَرَبُّكُمْ لَنَا أَعْمَالُنَا وَلَكُمْ أَعْمَالُكُمْ لَا حُجَّةً بيننا وبينكم الله يجمع بيننا وإليه المصير. So to that, I invite and remain on a right course as you are commanded, and do not follow their inclinations, but say, I have believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I believe in what He's revealed in the Quran, and I have been commanded to do justice among you. Allah is your Lord, and our Lord and your Lord. For us are our deeds, and for you are your deeds. There is no need for arguments between us. Allah will bring us together, and to Him is our final destination. And so this ayah clearly states that there's no reason to cause fitna or contention between us. If we're able to stick to this point, because We all teach and learn our deen differently from a young age. If we think that those who pray or do something slightly differently than us are deviants or kuffar, then we've done a great disservice to ourselves. And many of our deeds may be nullified as we become people of tafarruq. And tafarruq is basically the act of claiming that people are kafir. And so may Allah make us people who have unity between our hearts and not of those of tafarruq. And I want to mention that we are all entitled to our own opinions and convincing arguments. We're all entitled to that. There are perhaps people and scholars that we do not agree with, that we may have disagreements with on certain issues. We can still talk about these differences. We can still do it privately and with proper behavior and etiquette. And even after we talk about this, we can still go out to eat with each other. We can still visit each other's home and be friends. And we have these types of conversations with people with different faith groups. We're able to have interfaith dialogue, but unfortunately many of us aren't able to have this type of dialogue with our fellow Muslims as well. And to have these civil conversations with fellow Muslims, it's called ikhtilaf. And we need to be able to do ikhtilaf because it helps to keep our deen and identity strong. It helps us to enjoy the great blessings of it and the great practices of it with others as well. And it helps to keep our ummah connected and united. It doesn't let us fall into contention, but it will allow us to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala properly and be able to get the most out of this. And so I've discussed how to deal with differences of opinion. But I want to emphasize, expand more on the concept of differences of opinions itself. But first and foremost, we all need to know that the authentic source of Islamic knowledge, everything is based upon Quran and Sunnah. Whatever opinions scholars make, whatever lectures people make, it all has to come down from the Quran and Sunnah itself. And so these are the foundations of our faith, and these are the things that will allow us to make the proper conclusions on it. And also gaining knowledge in the field of Islamic sciences. It's as rigorous and intensive as any other fields, like medicine or law. It takes many years of study and many years of mastery to actually perfect it. And even if people aren't completely perfect in their knowledge, no matter what. And so when we study Islam, we need to make sure that whatever opinion we get, it's from it's based in Quran and Sunnah, and it's from someone who has the knowledge, the credibility, and the credentials to actually give that. Because in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Say, are those equal, those who have knowledge and those who do not have knowledge? Only the people of understanding take heed." So clearly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, people who have knowledge, they are superior to those who don't have knowledge. And then there's another quotation by the great scholar Abu Ishaq al-Shatibi, where he explains the concept of ijtihad, which means an ijtihad is basically the process of making these opinions. And so he says, ijtihad that occurs in religious matters is that of two types. There's the legitimate ijtihad, which arises from those who are well-versed, meaning that those who are knowledgeable in the requisites of it. And then the second type arises from those who do not have the knowledge or are insufficient in it. And this is invalid ijtihad. And in reality, what he says is that these come from basically the personal desires, whims, and conjectures of people. They don't come from the authentic sources, the Quran and Sunnah. And so not everything in the Quran and Sunnah is subject to difference of opinions. Because there are certain matters which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran. He says, "It is not for a believing man or woman when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger have decided upon a matter that they should thereafter have any choice in their affair. And whoever disobeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger, they've certainly strayed into clear error." And so these matters are called qati'at. And these are things that are set in the religion. We can't debate them. I'll expand more on them later. And then there's obviously ijtihad, as I mentioned before. And it's better to define these. There's a quote by Sheikh Wahba al-Zuhayli, and what he says is ijtihad is not permitted, and those matters universally known to be from the religion. There are only for those that are not completely established by definitive evidence. And that's what he basically says, that the Quran, there are some things that are completely certain, and there are some things that are not completely certain. And it's like any other field, where there are established concepts and principles, but some particular details or the application of these may have a few differences there may be some differences in it among people. Like for example, with doctors, they may disagree on how to apply chemotherapy to cancer patients, but then they all agree that antibiotics are not the way to treat cancer. So there was one difference of opinion, but then there's one set principle there. Likewise, in Islam, it is established that there is one God. Rasulullah ﷺ is the final messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our pillars of Islam are also established, and etc. But then there's other matters which do need interpretation, such as when Laylatul Qadr is, or how to shorten prayers while traveling, etc. Or what breaks wudu, as I previously mentioned, because every madhab, they have a different list of what breaks wudu. So Islam is like many other fields where the fundamentals are agreed upon, but particular details are still open to interpretation. But why is it like this? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make Islam like this? And so first of all, it's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He values human learning. As I mentioned before, Islam is an academic faith, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to better understand it based on the best evidence. And He favored us by giving us the knowledge to be able to do this. And it helps us appreciate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's gift to us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He started the Quran by saying the word iqra, to read, and then He goes on to praise education and scholarship. And in order to gain a better understanding of Islam, and to excel more towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we need to have knowledge, and we need to apply that knowledge. And then secondly, the differences of opinions that we have, they can serve as a test for us. Whether it's in how we deal with the differences that others have, or whether it's in choosing what opinions to believe. Are we choosing it based on the actual evidence of what is true, or are we choosing it based on our own personal reasons? And so that is also a test for us. Sometimes we may be tempted to choose something because it's easier for us, or it benefits our professional life or in some way, but it may not be exactly what is really true based on the evidence we have. And that's a test that many of us will face, and we will ultimately need to decide, okay, is this really the right opinion, or do I need to go in another direction? And then and so that's basically what the purpose of it is. It's first for us to be able to gain knowledge on Islam, and the second is a test like any other test we may face in life. And they're given to us, and these tests are given to us like any other test, and we need to be able to handle them positively. But unfortunately, as I previously mentioned, many Muslims don't do that these days. So we need to be able to revive the practice of ikhtilaf, and revive the understanding of different types of people and their opinions, in order to be able to fully succeed with our deen. And so to conclude, differences of opinions, they're not a bad thing for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He made it as a good thing for us, as an opportunity to gain Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy and worship Him, and use the gift He has given us for good. And so opinions that are based on the science of the Quran and Sunnah, those are okay. But those based on, for example, culture, political motivations, insufficient knowledge, or personal desires, those are not. And when one's intentions are sincere, they can bring greater awareness to a subject. And they can bring greater awareness to the evidences and knowledge within it, basically generating intellectual vitality and the spread of ideas. And this is how we can create more progress, is if we have more ideas and knowledge. And this will also give more solutions to existing problems, and it will harmonize the nature of Islam between others. And so by leaving some matters open to interpretation, it provides greater flexibilities in different matters in our religion, because Islam, it's crossed many civilizations, many eras and generations. And so it helps us to be able to be more flexible. Like the Islamic principles, those aren't changed. Those can't be changed. But the application of some of them can be changed based on certain circumstances, as many scholars have said. And so let me give you an example. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he received news that a book was written called the Book of Differences, basically on the same topic. But then he disagreed with the title of it and said that it should be instead named the Book of Flexibility. Additionally, when Harun al-Rashid, he asked Imam Malik later on to implement his works across the Khilafah and across the Ummah. But then Imam Malik disagreed with this, and then he said to the Khalifa, O leader of the believers, differences between scholars is a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Each follows what he believes to be correct, each upon guidance and each seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what both of these imams are generally saying is that the spectrum of opinions we all have is what benefits the ummah. And it helps our scholars to better lead communities on spiritual and Islamic and religious matters. And it helps them to develop the view that would best suit each community. And so scholars are there to help strike a balance, because Islam is a faith of moderacy. And so we don't want to go to extreme leniency or extreme strictness. We need to strike a balance, because that's what Islam is here to do. And so Islam, as a religion of modesty, is there to help us follow that middle path, and to help create options and knowledge for us to help us to better follow the deen we have. And so overall, the differences of opinions, they're obviously there to benefit us. And it's there to help us gain more knowledge as well as to test us at the same time. And so as time goes on, new opinions will arise. As Muslims go to more and more places, we will get new differences of opinions occurring. And we obviously need to be able to judge the best course of action in that place. We need to use ikhtilaf, and we can't create contention among ourselves for it. And as an ummah, we obviously need to work together. And we need to use these differences as a way to cooperate and not to divide. And having these different views, as I mentioned before, they give us the solutions and they give us way more answers. And so I hope that we can all take these lessons to heart and use it to benefit ourselves as well as the communities around us. Jazakallah khairan.
Thank you.